You open your eyes to sunlight so bright it looks like molten gold. The air tastes of smoke, salt, and incense. And below you, a city unlike anything you've ever seen. Tenochtitlán, a city built on water, canals glinting like mirrors, causeways stretching to the horizon, and temples rising from the lake like mountains carved by gods. The streets are alive, merchants, priests, warriors painting their faces with obsidian dust. And somewhere, beneath the hum of life, the drums never stop. But today, something's wrong. The sky carries more smoke than cloud. The drums sound different, faster, harder, desperate. You climb the temple steps, and for the first time you see it, the horizon on fire. Great plumes of dust and flame rising from the causeways, sails flickering through the haze. An army, hundreds of them, men in metal, glinting like sunlight made flesh. They're not supposed to be here. No one told you the gods had returned. But the whispers have already begun. Quetzalcoatl has come back to reclaim his throne. Or is it something worse? Below, the priests are to the crowds. Warriors grab their spears. Children run. The lake reflects the burning sky, and you can't tell where heaven ends and the world begins. For a heartbeat, you realize you are standing in the center of something impossible, a civilization at its peak and in its final hour. A world that thinks it's immortal, staring straight at its end, and still refuses to believe it. So here's the question. If you opened your eyes in the city of the gods and saw it burning, would you fight for it? Or just watch it fall?
Great Huitzilopochtli, accept this offering. Bring your tributes to the market.
Before the fire came, there was perfection. Tenochtitlan wasn't just a city, it was a machine. Built in the middle of a lake, balanced on causeways and canals, it moved with the precision of faith and engineering. Every morning, thousands walked across bridges of stone, carrying grain, gold, and cacao, tribute from hundreds of cities across the valley. Every afternoon, the markets filled with sound. Obsidian knives traded for jade, feathers, copper, and stories from every corner of Mesoamerica. The empire ruled not through fear alone, but through awe. At its heart stood the Templo Mayor, twin towers rising above the city like a double heartbeat. One side for Huitzilopochtli, god of war and sun. The other for Tlaloc, lord of rain and harvest, blood and rain, the two things that kept the world alive. Every drop of blood spilled on those steps wasn't cruelty, it was insurance. Because to the Aztecs, the sun rose each morning only because they fed it. Stop feeding it, and the world ends.
They take everything.
That's what made this empire terrifying and beautiful. It didn't just build pyramids, it powered the cosmos.
The Aztecs take
But power, like faith, has cracks. And by 1520, those cracks were spreading. The tributary cities, Tlaxcala, Cholula, Texcoco, were restless. Too many wars, too much blood, too little mercy. Rebellion simmered behind smiling masks. Then, the omens began. Comets streaked across the sky. The temple of Huitzilopochtli caught fire for no reason. And one night, a mirror of obsidian showed the emperor a vision. Warriors on beasts of thunder, carrying weapons that spat smoke. And then came something far worse than prophecy. Smallpox. Invisible, merciless. It moved faster than any army, killing tens of thousands before the first Spanish soldiers set foot inside the city again. For a civilization that worshipped balance, this was chaos incarnate. But still, they marched, built, and prayed, certain the gods would not abandon the city of the sun.
Empires rarely die from invasion. They die from overconfidence. the belief that their world is too sacred to collapse. The Aztec Empire still ruled millions, still glittered with wealth, still believed itself untouchable. But beneath that brilliance, the clock was ticking. The drums kept beating, the priests kept praying, and somewhere on the horizon, sails were rising. How does a godlike empire fall without realizing it's already dying? It just keeps celebrating, right until the sky catches fire.
They came from the east, not as an army, but as a rumor. Strange men with skin like ash, armor that glinted like mirrors, and beasts that snorted smoke. The Aztecs had no word for horse, so they called them monsters, half man, half beast, born of thunder. And leading them, Hernán Cortés, a man who shouldn't have existed. He wasn't royalty, he wasn't chosen. He was an outlaw, defying orders, burning his own ships so there was no way back. He came to the New World with less than 600 men, and enough ambition to rewrite it.
History paints him as a conqueror, but the truth? He was just another survivor, gambling everything on faith, fear, and gunpowder.
To the Spanish crown, Cortés was a missionary with a musket, sent to bring Christianity to a land of idols. To himself, he was something else, a man standing at the edge of myth, determined to step inside it. When Moctezuma, emperor of the Aztecs, heard of these strangers, he didn't send an army, he sent gifts. Gold, feathers, food. Because to him, this might be Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, returned from the east as prophecy had promised. And if you think that sounds naive, remember, even the Spaniards thought the same. They believed God had sent them here to bring salvation. Both sides thought they were fulfilling destiny. Both were wrong. As Cortés moved inland, something unexpected happened. The enemies of the Aztecs, the Tlaxcalans, Totonacs, and others, crushed under imperial rule, saw their chance. They joined him, tens of thousands. Their hatred of the Aztec Empire was older, deeper, and far more powerful than loyalty to any god.
When you ask how 600 men conquered millions, remember this, they didn't. The empire tore itself apart from the inside.
The march to Tenochtitlán wasn't a conquest. It was a pilgrimage of revenge, natives leading the strangers to their own capital. By the time Cortés saw the city for the first time, it shimmered on the lake like a dream. White stone, turquoise water, gold towers reflecting the sun. Even hardened soldiers fell silent, and in that silence, two worlds looked at each other for the first time. One ancient and divine, the other armed and hungry. No one spoke the same language. No one understood the other's gods. But both recognized something familiar: power.
When faith meets fear, which side writes the truth?
That question has never stopped echoing. Not in the temples, not in the cathedrals, not in the history books. Because in 1521, it wasn't just an empire that was tested. It was the definition of civilization itself. Tenochtitlan, once a city of gods, had become a trap. The causeways that once connected it to the mainland were severed. The aqueducts that fed it fresh water were shattered, and the great lake that once reflected the temples now stank of ash and death. It was summer, 1521, 3 months of siege, and the city was dying. Cortés had returned with ships, brigantines built from the wrecks of his own fleet. They patrolled the canals like wolves, cutting off every escape. Spanish cannons fired from the causeways day and night, and for every volley, the Aztecs answered with obsidian blades, slings, and fury.
This wasn't just conquest, it was extinction in real time.
Inside the walls, food ran out first, then water, then mercy. The markets fell silent. Families starved behind shattered doors. The dead were burned at night, but there was no wood left, no space left, no air left. Smallpox had already done its work. The disease Cortés's men had carried unknowingly now finished the job his army couldn't. It killed faster than swords. It spared no class, no priest, no child. But even in ruin, the Aztecs fought. They rebuilt barricades in the canals every night, only to see them burned again by morning. They turned rooftops into fortresses. Every street became a battlefield of stone and blood. Cortés's men, exhausted, sunburned, half-starved themselves, advanced yard by yard, step by step. For every block taken, they lost more men to ambushes and arrows raining from the temples.
The conquistadors called them savages. But what kind of savage dies defending every inch of home?
From the temple terraces, priests watched the sky fill with smoke. They still believed the gods would intervene. But the gods stayed silent, and the city burned anyway. Every sound had a rhythm, the boom of cannon, the hiss of fire, the scream of stone collapsing. Tenochtitlán, the Venice of the New World, was drowning in its own lake. By August, it was no longer a city. It was a furnace of mud, ash, and bone. The canals ran thick with bodies. The smell carried for miles. But still, they fought.
Civilization isn't marble or gold. It's the belief that tomorrow will come. And in Tenochtitlán, tomorrow had stopped existing.
At last, the Spaniards broke through to the Templo Mayor, the heart of the empire. They tore down banners, smashed idols, melted gold into bars, and planted a cross where the sun once rose. For the first time in 1,000 years, the drums of the Aztecs stopped.
Can civilization survive contact with a world that doesn't understand it? Or does it simply become history?
The smoke lifted, and the city of gods was gone. You can hear the city dying. Not in screams, but in whispers. A priest kneels at the top of the Templo Mayor, his robes torn and blackened. He raises his hands toward a sky that no longer answers. The gods of sun and rain have gone quiet. He prays anyway, not for victory, but for memory.
Faith doesn't vanish when the world ends. It just gets quieter.
Below him, Spanish soldiers rest against shattered walls. Their armor is rusted, their skin burned raw, their eyes hollow. One of them dips a quill in ink, the ink made from soot and blood, and writes to the king. We have taken the greatest city known to man. Its temples burn, its people flee, and the lake drinks their bodies. God has granted us victory. But his hand shakes. He looks at the bodies of his own men beside him and realizes that victory smells exactly like defeat. Across the canals, mothers cradle dying children in the ruins. There is no food, no medicine. They press wet cloth to their lips, water drawn from a lake full of ash. They tell stories of gods who once promised rebirth. They lie, because lies are kinder than silence.
The chronicles say the city fell, but the truth is, it drowned. In smoke, in sickness, in faith.
They are waiting for you beyond the stars, my love.
Somewhere near the causeway, a captured Spanish slave, once an African, chained and forgotten, pulls himself free from a collapsed galley. He looks around at the bodies of both Spaniards and Aztecs and laughs bitterly. He doesn't pray, he just whispers, "We all rode for the same gods. They just had different names." And for a moment, the fire, the screams, the banners all fade. What's left are people, hungry, terrified, lost.
The Spaniards wrote letters. The Aztecs wrote laments. Both called the other barbaric. Both built their gods from blood.
As dawn breaks, Cortés stands over what's left of the city. He orders a cross raised over the ruins, his men hymns in Latin. Down below, the last surviving priests still to Huitzilopochtli. The melodies blend, two languages, two faiths, colliding in the same smoke. For the first time, their prayers sound almost identical.
Who gets to call themselves civilized when both sides burn the same world?
The wind changes, the flames flicker, and the city once called the place where the gods touched earth falls silent. For a heartbeat, the new world truly is new, empty, waiting, and already forgetting what came before.
Push through the breach! Charge! Kill them all!
The last wall breaks. Spanish soldiers pour through like fire through dry grass. Temples crumble. Smoke rolls over the lake. Tenochtitlán, the city of gods, is no longer a city. It's an inferno. Cortés leads from the front, sword drawn, face streaked with soot and blood. He's not fighting for gold anymore. He's fighting to end the nightmare he started. Behind him, the Tlaxcalans rush in, shouting revenge, burning everything the Empire once called sacred. Stone idols topple into the canals. Feathers, gold, and human ashes swirl together in the air, beauty and ruin in the same breath.
We are the true warriors!
Conquest isn't clean, it's never glory and hymns. It's the sound of belief catching fire.
At the heart of it all, the Templo Mayor, once the tallest structure in the Americas, now a fortress of desperation. Aztec warriors fight to the last man, obsidian blades slashing against steel, their skin painted with blood and ash, their war cries echoing through the smoke. They know they're dying, but they fight anyway, because gods don't surrender.
Every empire thinks its gods will protect it, but gods can burn too.
Then, the eagle banner falls. The sacred symbol of Huitzilopochtli, the sun god, torn, soaked in blood, trampled under Spanish boots. The last defenders are pushed into the lake. The canals that once shimmered with trade and light now choke with corpses. Moctezuma is already dead, or murdered, depending on who you ask. Some say his own people killed him for surrendering to the invaders. Others say Spanish steel found him first. No one really knows. And that's the point. When gods die, truth dies with them.
Every chronicle disagrees. Every survivor lies. Because nobody wants to be the villain in the story that ends the world.
Gold melts in the temple fires, once divine offerings, now liquid greed. Crosses rise where idols fall, Latin hymns echo over broken altars. But if you listen closely, beneath the psalms, you can still hear the drums, faint, defiant, refusing to die. The Spaniards think they've conquered a people, but what they've really done is rename their gods. Huitzilopochtli becomes Saint Michael, Tlaloc becomes Saint John. The faith remains, just wearing a new face.
Did the gods die that day, or just change their names?
Tenochtitlán is ash, but from its bones, a new world begins to grow. The Spanish don't rebuild the city, they overwrite it. On the ruins of temples, they raise cathedrals. The stones that once echoed with prayers to the sun god now ring with church bells. The lake that once reflected gold and feathers now reflects crosses and muskets. The survivors, the few who still breathe, are rounded up, baptized, renamed. Nahuatl words fade from the air. Latin replaces them. Faith changes languages. Smallpox finishes what the sword started. Whole villages vanish before a single sermon is preached. By 1524, the empire of millions has become a colony of ghosts.
The Aztec Empire fell in 3 years. But it took 3 centuries for its shadow to fade.
Cortés writes to the King of Spain, "The city has been pacified. Its people are loyal. The faith is spreading." He doesn't mention that the city smells like rot, or that the priests sleep to the sound of coughing and the weight of silence. The melted gold of the temples, once offerings to the gods, is poured into bars, stamped with the seal of Castile, and shipped across the ocean. The empire is reborn as currency, faith as economy.
The gods of the old world arrived as merchants, and the new world paid in blood.
Yet beneath the surface, something survives. Old rituals, whispered in corners, songs sung in secret, names carried quietly from mother to child, disguised, reshaped, but never forgotten. Because conquest can bury a culture, but it can't erase memory.
Every empire calls its victories divine. Every conquered world calls them temporary.
And as the bells of the first cathedral ring over the ruins of Tenochtitlán, the question hangs in the smoke of history. Was this victory? Or just transformation? The canals of Tenochtitlán are gone. Temples swallowed by cathedrals, gold melted into crowns. But the city still whispers.
Every street, every plaza, every stone was once walked by priests, warriors, merchants, and kings. They built a city that defied time, and even after conquest, their echoes remain.
In markets, the colors of the old codices live on in textiles.
It looks exactly like the motifs
In
the old
language,
codices.
Nahuatl words survive in names, in phrases, in songs. In rituals, the sun still rises over festivals that trace patterns older than Cortés's
We
sails.
also have fresh chili, good for the mole.
Do you accept cards or only cash?
Cash is preferred, but we can do either for the chocolate.
Empires can fall, temples can burn, but culture doesn't die. It hides, it adapts, it waits.
The modern city sprawls outward, impossible to capture in a single frame. Yet, the aerial view reveals something ancient, the ghostly grid of causeways and plazas beneath the asphalt. Geometry of a civilization that once claimed the skies.
I'm gonna score! Pass it to
Can
me.
conquest erase the people it consumes, or does it only bury them alive? The answer is written in the rhythms of the city, in its festivals, its music,
Hot
its
tamales,
memory.
Get the best tamales here. Red or green, come and get them while they're hot.
Children play where warriors once ran. Street vendors call where markets once flourished. The lake is gone, replaced by asphalt and traffic. But the heartbeat remains, faint, unbroken.
Tenochtitlan is not gone. It is buried beneath our feet, breathing through every step, every word, every story we tell.
The Aztecs fell not because they were savage, but because they believed their gods could not fail. The Spaniards won not because they were divine, but because they believed they could. Civilization isn't immortal. It's confident until someone else arrives. Every empire believes it owns the world until history reminds it how fragile belief really is. And yet, the heartbeat of a civilization never dies. It waits beneath the stones, in memory, in culture, in every story that refuses to be forgotten. How far does ambition reach before history reaches back?